Welcome back to TTC. We purchased 6 flashlights, each of these rated for 5,000 lumens, with name brands included, and very few of these are, as it turns out, going to make 5,000 lumens. And that's going to include, for the first time, a weapon light on the channel for pew-pew devices, because it seemed like half the 5,000 lumen options were those. These are no doubt for sidearms, but personally I can't hit the side of a barn from inside of a barn with one of those, so don't own any. My long barrel stand-ins will have to suffice in a pinch to durability test it, along with durability testing a lot of these the good old-fashioned gravity way, because you guys are demented and want to see that. We get no pleasure in this, it's purely science. So let's see who among these $9 to $140 options we bought, including Olight's newest model, the Prowess, AceBeam, and others, can hit the mark today with lumen testing in our integrating sphere, charge time, and light output over their runtime. Let's hop in. In order of price, we have first Vastfire. This 5,000 lumen flashlight is somehow $9.95 to $19. It's been changing around a bit, but regardless of where it lands there, when you click on it, that's cheap. I'm not sure how that's possible, not because we expect it to hit 5,000 lumens, but because it's like a flashlight that turns on because it has a battery inside. A battery that's a 26650 lithium, a real one at that, from what we can tell. It's not the half-weight ones that our usual $30, $40, $50 flashlight purchases feature. It says 5,000 milliamp hours on it. We'll see about that. But yeah, this even has a side light work light sort of deal on it. It actually charges. It's even USB-C. Not handing out participation trophies here, but the Lumen Sphere of Truth, it's making 1,000 lumens out of the gate at least. And after the 30-second ANSI Alpha 1 period, that's still 720 lumens or thereabouts. It hops around and spikes up to 1,000 when you turn it off and then back onto high. For candela, or an idea of how far that light casts, you can focus adjust this light, which we do just before the point it becomes too broken up by the shape of the LED, which makes for 8,500 candela here. That's good enough for 185 meters of distance. And yeah, it's just 14% of advertised based on the FL1 standard. If you're looking for a 5,000 lumen flashlight, yeah, this ain't it. But if it had advertised 1,000, 700, 800, might be our buy of the year if these still stick around. No idea who Vastfire is. We'll see in the drop tests how things shake out. And next in order of price, we have the Windfire. Not sure what it is about the word fire lights and battery brands on Amazon love so much. Would seem like it's opposite to what they're trying to convey, but this is a $30 example, and it's a weapon light, and also doesn't come with a battery, so we'll be using a Samsung 25R of ours. If you guys are dead set on us buying more of these, let us know. Spend most of my range and BLM time in the prone position just because I always have, and just how darn pitiful my pistol skills are. This is what my usual range of hardware preference looks like. So yeah, this is a simple by the specs high power flashlight with a Picatinny rail attachment and 2 tail cap designs, traditional button tail cap and the remote weapon mounted switch type. Now, even with this offset Picatinny design, it doesn't look like it's going to fit under any of the long rifle scopes I own. I'll just have to use this one, which has a forward rail mount on the chassis, and hope it does a good job. Obviously, not super practical. I hope no one would ever choose to use a setup like this, but the light operation itself is straightforward. Large button for always on, always off, slim button for temporary on. The light itself only has one mode, high, and man is that rare these days, and something I kind of like. Let's see how punchy it is with its light output, then see how much it can take a punch in recoil. The Windfire comes in at about the 600 mark and holds that mostly steadily, down to about 590 at the 30-second mark. But candela, it's this one's main party trick, about 10,500, which makes sense for a weapon light, I suppose. A nice hot spot in the center to point with. Out at our makeshift range here, this is a simple 400-yard target, just needs some recoil, not all that difficult a task. It doesn't seem to be affecting my aim, so there's that. And I knocked it right off. So I'll be honest, I don't know when exactly this happened. It could be in the last few rounds, it could have been the last round, but it is no longer working. But what I noticed is depending on the cap position, sometimes it flashes on. See? For a second there, Yeah, so the tail cap appears to be broken. It's a bit loosey-goosey now. Somewhere between 1 and 5 rounds is what it took to kill at least some of the parts in this thing. Your mileage may vary, but I probably wouldn't count on it in a situation you might be purchasing it for, so that likely is all that matters, I feel. Let us know if you think otherwise. Okay, on to the less channel demonetizing lights we have here and some actual name brands here on out, which they have some prices to go along with that. Neibo here with their Da Vinci 5000 we bought for 80 bucks. They make Da Vinci lights in a massive range of lumen levels, so I've been meaning to pick one of these up. This uses a dual stack of 21700s, so quite long for a handle, equivalent to 9,000 milliamp hours of capacity. The light is no doubt bright. It's a big step up from the last couple lights, but it also spreads that out very wide, which can be useful depending on your task at hand. This is USB-C as well, but charges, we find at about 1.5 to 1.6 amps, which is a bit slow for this large of battery. But let's see what it can do, because honestly, this is where it shines. No pun intended, I guess pun intended. 5,900 lumens out at the gate. Well, we try multiple opening types and covers for the shroud around this thing. It's actually up to 6,000 lumens, and we're still at 5,900 lumens at the 30-second mark. And despite having a lot of mass, this thing is heating up already in the hand. The front focus beam adjustment is the nicest on the day with this model and doesn't get too sharp, which can sometimes look silly on lights, but that's good for just 8800 candela here, or 190 meters, but also 118% of advertised lumens. Pretty happy with that. Alright, from the largest 5,000 lumen flashlight we bought, that Neibo, to this, the smallest, this is the 5,000 lumen Nitecore EDC 35 that we bought for 90 bucks. This is another more spot-focused, high candela style of flashlight, and gotta say the UI button interaction with this one isn't immediately obvious to any of us. Out of the box, it's got us wondering how to access certain settings or keep it in certain modes with full clicks and half taps. It feels and seems incredibly well built. It has a cool slide over shield for the USB-C port that feels very solid and has a steel pin to stop it. And the slider for the button lock is really rewarding to use as well, nice and tactile. Feels very EDC. That is until we try to unscrew it and take it apart. Can't say we read all the fine print on this one before buying, which is typical for us, but this one does not have a removable battery cell like every other flashlight on the day. And this is the only product putting EDC in the title and model number. That seems a bit at odds with itself, and I'm afraid it doesn't stop there. Couldn't figure out how to put this one in its top mode because you have to hold it down the entire time. Then you get a lot of light, 5,300, 5,400 lumens, and then you sort of don't. Not even halfway into the ANSI F01 standard, it goes down to a regular high setting, 1,470 lumens. Not shabby, but it appears they maybe invented their own Lumen Shield trademark setting that they won't even tell you how long it lasts. It makes a lot of candela too, but same sort of issue with the drop off. We'll list its peak candela either way. So this is 5,000 lumens, but it really sounds like a mode they invented to get around the F01 standard, which I believe you can't really be doing if you want to put it in the title of your product. If it's not going to make it 30, heck, even 15 seconds. Not that it's stopping some other brands on Amazon from fudging the numbers, but this is a name brand light for $90, let's remember. Nitecore has made some very well-performing lights on our channel, and this feels incredibly well made, but also like someone took the reins on this one's design philosophy and really made a sort of misleading light. It's more like a larger, rounder Streamlight wedge with even less turbo time, which looks like a lot of customers agree and made the same mistake we did. Sort of harshing our vibe here, sorry about that. Let's continue on with the AceBeam L35, a much requested brand to include on the channel, and happy to buy one today. This 5,000 lumen model, again, is $115. This has a round collar on the back by the clip that allows it to sort of annoyingly roll off the surfaces more than it would otherwise, but besides that, it's a sweet little unit. It's very spot focused, so you're going to see stuff illuminated across this ravine now and onto the other side like pretty much nothing else has today. And it's the only one that you can see a light beam coming off of it in the dark. It's pretty cool. This uses a 5,000 milliamp hour 21700 battery, common format, but the included one charged into the cell itself, a USB-C, and at 2 amps, which is what the Nitecore charges at, but I've not seen a plug into cell type charger charged that quick. Often they're 1 amp. Streamlights are often like 0.5 or 3/4 of an amp, so that's a welcome surprise. It's got both a forward and rear tail cap switch to turn on the light and cycle through modes. Pretty neat. The only thing this doesn't get quite full marks on from this light is the amount of light. This is going to hit 4500 from the start, and that's with any shroud type, and that's going to taper to 4280 at 30 seconds. I said few are going to make it to 5000 today, and that includes this $115 option for whatever reason. Candela, though, yeah, smashes that out of the park here. 106, 107, 106,000 Candela. That's enough for over half a kilometer, quite a bit more, 650 meters. 86% of advertised lumens. Moving on to our final entry of the day, Olight's latest and our most expensive 5K lumen option, the Olight Prowess. This comes with a decent hard belt holder sleeve thing and a 5000 milliamp hour 21700 again, but Olight's are proprietary, which is pretty annoying. This has a flared out head like the AceBeam, but uses that to stack more LEDs out front and fit a lens underneath it for a cool little area light, and a design I haven't seen and seems pretty neat really. It's a warmer, more comfortable on the eyes color temperature to illuminate an area around you. There's a simple slide switch to decide between these two settings, which is nice considering it was probably much easier to just program that into the main button, so at least providing some features for the money here. These magnetically tail cap charge like most Olights, but included was a matching USB-C tail cap adapter that also magnetically snaps on, which would be my preference by a mile. You can also mount this tail charger cap thing onto something and throw it into it. It charges at 2 amps this way. Besides the price, we have very few complaints about this one. Highly subjective, but the handle machining feel, threads, and seams around this also feel, well, very good. And I'd be happy to tell you otherwise if that were true. But when it comes to the lumens, yeah, Olight sort of delivering here even more, over-delivering really. It goes from about 5800 down to 5690 by 30 seconds. I'd call that pretty good for a light of this size. That's not even feeling warm by the touch somehow at this point. A non-spot focus light, this is not the strongest attribute on this one. It's going to get 17,000 to 17,200 Candela here, 260 meters. Next up, we're going to look at output versus runtime. To get up to a full charge from dead, this is what those figures look like. 9 hours on the cheapest flashlight we've ever purchased. It only charges at about 0.6 amps, but that also confirmed when we measured it, somehow this is a 5000 milliamp hour 26650. That's pretty impressive for the price. Windfire doesn't charge in the light or include a battery, and these are all very similar battery size, all 2 amp hour charging, so very similar charge time. Let's see that runtime output. A few of these are going to start much higher than others, but by the 10-minute mark, they're all sort of calming down and in the same neighborhood. We're going to see the AceBeam drop out first at 1 hour 40 minutes, but we don't mind this. Spends its entire charge at around 1500 lumens. It's a spot focus thrower, and I'd rather have that. We imagine you're pointing it at things, so can't think of why you'd want it to be instead like 6 hours on high. The Windfire dies off next, just over 2 hours. Then the Olight, following a similar trajectory to the AceBeam, lots of high output for a decently long time, 2.5 hours. That's good stuff. Somehow Neibo, with almost twice the battery size, is next, though much later, 4 hours and 20 minutes. Then Nitecore, because it lives most of its life at under 800 lumens, 5 hours. And lastly, somehow, again, the cheapest flashlight ever, not the most efficient with that battery size and looking at those Lumen figures, but it's definitely using all of it, 6 hours and 15 minutes. The Neibo was the most surprising. Let's take a look at that by the numbers. This is total lumen minutes, basically a sum of their measurements at set intervals, an idea of total light output. The Neibo, despite being the largest light and the largest battery by far, comes in second, with the Olight being most efficient at turning milliamp hours into lumens, with these two not too far behind the Neibo when you consider the size difference. This is because we believe the Neibo gets hot, like too warm to hold comfortably after 5 to 10 minutes of this thing being on. All this aluminum should be helping to dissipate heat, but instead, a lot of your juice is being turned into heat, not flashy stuff. The AceBeam also gets pretty hot, but only in its turbo mode, which it drops out of. Then it cools down after this, still running at 1500 lumens. The Neibo only gets hotter and hotter for like a couple hours, and too hot to hold without gloves. I'd hate to actually use the 10,000 lumen version of the same light in your hands. Okay, and we've made it to our last category, durability. The Windfire is going to get a 2 out the gate here. We did some drop testing. It did sort of middle of the pack before cracking that lens, but if you're buying this for a weapon and it fails from recoil, well, no real reason to buy it then. We dropped these lights from increasing heights and increasingly going to be out of focus here as we continue on, sorry about that, until they break in some way, multiple times for each light, up to, in the case of this Nitecore here, benefiting from its sort of one-piece design. 20 feet, not making it to spiking on the ground yet, but this still did very good. We dropped it a lot of times, 9 out of 10. Vastfire, which I figured would be junk at every turn and is determined to prove me wrong at every turn as well, took almost as many drops. A couple stages before that Nitecore, 14 feet, 3 drops at that, and the light won't stay on now. This gets a respectable 7 out of 10. The Neibo suffers a bit from its large size and added gravity that comes along with that, like most lights of this size do, and doesn't get as far into testing. It stops working after 2 drops at 8 feet. This gets a 5 out of 10. The Olight, being a complex looking and feeling tool with twice as much glass as the next guy, also suffers a bit of design consequences. First drop at 10 feet, we're going to call that 6 out of 10. And with the AceBeam here, for the first time on the channel, in the 22 lights episodes we've done, over 100 lights purchased, we have a different durability score for every light we bought. In drop count, in height, none of these lights perform the same as the other, and that's because the AceBeam is a tough cookie. This light likes to turn off, then flash back on each time it's dropped, like it feels each one of those drops. We're sorry, little guy, because this graduated to the spikes on the ground stage, only taking 2 of those spikes here before no longer working, which gets a 10 out of 10 here on the day for this category, though we've had some lights in the past get past this step. In this crowd, yeah, 10 out of 10, very nice. So can we recommend any of the lights from this list? Absolutely. By the numbers, these 2 are the best 5,000 lumen flashlights we've ever bought. If you're looking for a thrower, this is the obvious choice. If you're looking for an area light, the Prowess is the obvious choice. They both spend their whole time at 1500 lumens and above, which is very rare these days. The Olight, by the numbers, considering it somehow doesn't even get warm and really turns that battery into all light, exceeds its stats. It might have an edge overall in performance. But luckily, we're not that boring, choosing just the 2 most expensive lights on the day. That's pretty lame. So very happy we purchased this little diamond in the rough. This might just be a battery company trying to figure out how to offload their batteries on Amazon after the new listings crackdown they've had. So you're sort of getting a free light with it and a cheaper than normal battery, one that charges it with USB-C just sort of thrown in. And it's 1,000 lumens when you turn it on. Never had a cheapo light stand out this much, so sort of stoked to be able to give a check mark up here on this side of the price range. We make episodes every Friday. To see those sometimes, click stuff below if you're so inclined. And thanks for watching.